G'day guys, I'm Tom.
Hello everyone, I'm Nick.
Today we'll be comparing two texts, the feature film Gran Torino, directed by Clint Eastwood, and short story Cartagena, a part of Namli's collection, The Boat.
We will be deconstructing the stimulus question. Texts often highlight particular issues within the society they portray.
Compare and evaluate the way in which these two texts you've studied this year attempt to comment upon issues specific to the context of these texts. First issue we'll be looking at is the influence gangs have over the youth culture. This societal issue is present in both Gran Torino and Cartagena, represented through the prevalence of gangs in both Detroit, Michigan and Medellin, Colombia. To begin, a similarity between the two texts is that they both present a pressure influencing the youth to join these gangs, though the difference is that this pressure comes from a very different place.
For example, in Cartagena, it could be argued that these children are joining the gangs as a result of societal pressure.
Oh, yes, without a doubt. For them it is an expectation to be a part of these gangs, as it means they can supply and look after their families. Let's look at Ron, for instance.
This character is only 14 and he's already constructed as the man of the house. This becomes apparent when his father is murdered. You must speak nothing of it, father's death, and think nothing of it, for you are the man of the house now.
Though it is not made explicitly obvious, it seems like an unspoken duty that these youth join these assassin gangs and earn money to feed their families. Furthermore, in Cartagena, it could be argued that being a part of these gangs is actually an achievement, just like merely making it to 14 years of age. Ron states that, "I am no child wet behind the ears, I now have 14 years and 2 months.
Indeed, for these children, it's a huge honour and privilege to be an assassin. Ron mentions it at the beginning of the story, when they're taking out the child. Maybe they, Ron's friends, are seeking to impress me now that I have my office job.
This demonstrates that even though the society is pressuring these children into these mature roles, they seem to accept the responsibility with open arms due to the status that's brought with it. On the other hand, in Gran Torino, saying that the society is pressuring the youth to join the gangs and that by joining the gangs these children have an increased sense of self-worth, it would not be entirely accurate.
Yes, in Gran Torino, it's less of the society pressuring the children to join the gangs, it's more the family members.
Now, before you guys jump down our throats, hear us out.
It's Spider that bullied Tao into the attempted theft of Walt's Gran Torino car.
And Spider's family.
So therefore, to an extent, family can have a heavy influence over the formation and affiliation of gangs.
Spider describes to Tao that we're cousins, right? We're family. Directly after Tao refuses to go with the gang to steal the Gran Torino.
To strengthen this pressuring notion, a low camera angle is used to construct the gang, and a high angle portrays Tao, emphasizing the burden that Tao's family/relatives are placing upon him.
To add, the children in Cartagena are somewhat arrogant as a result of having those office jobs. This is still expressed by the Hmong gang, though arguably to a lesser extent.
Of course, and this could be a direct result of the societal discrepancy. A single death to a Colombian assassin means absolutely nothing, as opposed to the Hmong gang, where a single death can lead to a lifetime in prison.
Therefore, to a degree, we could identify that for the Hmong gang, it's more about showing off than finding targets like in Cartagena.
Overall, demonstrating that, yes, both do have a high sense of self-worth, but for the Gran Torino gang, they're more talk than walk, so to speak.
Absolutely. In terms of evaluating the attempt Eastwood and Lee have made in terms of commenting on issues specific to the context of their text, we can evaluate that Lee's attempt is more successful than Eastwood's.
Lee seeks to make comment on the prevalence of these child assassins and their gangs in Colombian society, without which the narrative in Cartagena would collapse.
Conversely, Eastwood comments on the gang prevalence and the associating pressures, though these take a backseat to the primary conflict of the integration of the Hmong gang into the Western society.
Therefore, evaluating Lee's attempt to be more effective as a result of the conflict mentioned being at the forefront of the text, whereas Eastwood's is secondary to the main struggle. Another societal issue presented is the marginalisation of women in each text, forming distinct gender roles in their respective society.
Exactly, it's almost impossible to miss in Gran Torino through Tao's older sister Sue and her constant disparagement in the setting.
Spot on. Remember when Sue is being taken out for a date and is confronted by older men? They constantly insult her for standing up for herself, at one point stating, "Yo, you need to keep your bitch on a leash."
Their derogatory terminology and spitefulness is also enhanced in the camera angles during this scene. We see it from Sue's low-angled perspective, demonstrating that Sue even has to fight through physical difficulties to stand her ground.
The gang's stereotypical views on women's responsibility are also shown when Tao is doing the gardening out the front of his house.
To which Spider states that Tao shouldn't do a woman's work, man. Don't get your hands dirty.
Now what's interesting about this is the similarities we can draw up between Gran Torino and Cartagena, and how women in Lee's text are almost disregarded.
However, Nick, I believe to truly understand the marginalisation of women, we have to look deeper into the representations of them in Cartagena.
Of course, these main representations are experienced by Ron's childhood friend, Claudia, as I remember one particular quote from Ron after Claudia had asked him how he was feeling, when something like, "Correct me if I'm wrong here, but it is a question only a girl would ask."
Yeah, I think you've got that exactly right. What is interesting about this is the specific diction used in Lee's writing. It purposely uses the words only to differentiate between the expected divide between masculinity and femininity. For example, in Cartagena, the boys often reject expressing their feelings and associate this as a trait that only girls would possess.
Whilst these pieces are alike, there is still one distinct difference between the two.
Of course, the difference between the two is that Sue is actively standing up for herself and almost fighting back to gain her independence, which again is clearly seen through the confrontation on the street. Oh great, another arsehole with a fetish for Asian girls.
Conversely to this, we see no change whatsoever in Ron's mother. She sits all day at home and watches trivial shows like soap operas.
This is her single task during the day, which she devotes all her attention to. She does not blink. I believe both Lee and Eastwood have made conscious efforts to comment upon this issue in their respective societies. However, I believe Eastwood's Gran Torino does this more effectively. It consistently brings forward this notion throughout the text of Sue's disregard and abuse, beginning with just verbal derogatory comments and culminating in her eventual rape.
Comparatively, Lee does mention similar marginalisation of women in his text. However, he does not continually reinforce it, simply leaving it to the audience to make their own reading to the patriarchal society he portrays.
In conclusion, we have learnt that both texts convey the issue of gang prevalence and the marginalisation of women, though they convey these in contrasting ways.
Moreover, we have concluded that the attempts have been effective to an extent, for each text focuses on a particular issue to a greater extent than the other, with Cartagena demonstrating the gang prevalence at the forefront of the narrative,
and Gran Torino narrowing on the ubiquity and mistreatment of women in the suburbs of Detroit. Thanks for watching.